This is a demonstration for the CRA model, or the Cancer Risk Assessment model. This is a risk assessment that we have built into the breast tracking module. It is a combination of different risk assessments. It is a combination of the Gail Model, the BRCA Pro, and the Tyrer-Cuzick 7 and 8 versions. I'm going to go through and show you how to use this risk assessment within Meta-Informatics. We can go over the different functionalities of the screens, of the information that you're going to get, how to use this type of information, and just different functionalities of this breast cancer risk assessment. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It is a branch on the tree within the mammography or breast tracking tree. We label it the breast cancer risk assessment. So if this is a brand new patient like mine is, we're going to do the first ever cancer risk assessment on this patient. I'm going to go ahead and click on this branch, and you'll notice this says no prior assessments for this exam or this patient. So this is my very first cancer risk assessment entry on this patient. So I'm going to go ahead and click the new assessment button. The very first question is, do you have a history of breast cancer? If the question is going to be answered yes, then this will be the only question you'll see on this CRA questionnaire. If you answer yes, then we already know what your risk is for getting breast cancer. So this is the first and only question that you will be answering if your answer is yes. If the answer is no, you can go ahead and click the next button. The first information type that you'll be entering is the demographics on this patient. We try to pre-populate as much as possible. So the first name, age, and gender at birth is pre-populated for you. We're going to get this information from the demographic screen within Meta-Informatics. So if race and ethnicity is something that you typically fill out within the demographic screen, we can pull in that information as well. If it's not something you typically enter, you can just go ahead and have the patient fill it out when they're answering this questionnaire. It does ask you for height and weight. You can enter in that information here as well. And then once you're done answering the questions, go ahead and click next. The first type of general history questions we're going to ask you is about the hormone replacement therapy that the patient may or may not have been using. You can answer never, current user, previous, less than 5 years ago, or previous, more than 5 years ago. I'm going to go ahead and answer current user, and it's going to ask you what type. I'm going to say combined, and I'll be on it for 4 years. And then once you're done, throughout this whole risk assessment, you can click next once you're done answering the questions on that page. So after demographics and hormone replacement therapy questions, we're going to start getting into the medical history of the patient. So you can go ahead and enter in that information as needed. If you answer some of these questions, you'll notice that there are secondary questions that appear depending on what the answer is on that question. So birth to more than one children, if you do say yes, there is a secondary question that appears that they want to know the age you were. And then just more information about the medical history, about menopause, the age you were when you entered it, any diagnoses of ovarian cancer, anything like that. And it's just going to ask you for additional information. And then click next when you're done. Have you ever had genetic testing is also a question. This is, again, one of those questions that will appear more questions if you answer yes. So it's going to ask you for these types of information to be entered. And then just medical history continued. Just go ahead and keep answering those questions as they appear. And then once you're done making your entries, just click next. And you should have just a few more questions, and then we should be done. All right, click next. And that was the end of the patient portion of the entry. You do have the option to add additional blood relatives to this cancer risk assessment. So Rose is my patient. If you wanted to edit what your entry was for the patient, that pencil is an edit button, so you could click on it and then go back and make any corrections that you need to. If you do want to enter in any additional blood relatives, all you have to do is click on the yes button, and then there is a whole list of options for you to enter in. You can make as many entries as you need to. So if the mother and a sister had a history of breast or ovarian cancer, you can add entries on both of them. So that's what I'm going to show you here. So you would just make your selection on the blood relative option, and it's going to ask you just a few short questions about that. So you put the name of the family member, the age that they currently are, and then just answering the questions about their personal history. And like I said, you can have as many entries as you need to. So if you wanted to make an entry on a sister, you can do that as well. All right. And then once you're done adding in not only the patient's information, but also the family information, you can go ahead and click no once you've made all your entries. And it will tell you to close the window, you are finished. So I'm going to close the window out. And then I'm going to submit this to the CRA module. So there's a second branch that says send to CRA. If you click on this, there is a form that does pop up. And this is basically all the information that we entered in on our patient. It has the demographics, the general history, medical history, and everything like that, along with the relatives that have had either breast, ovarian, or some sort of mutation. So this is just a summary of what we just answered in for the patient and their relatives. So you do have the options down here below to click on the edit button. If you notice something that was incorrectly added, or you just need to make any adjustments, you can click the edit button and go ahead and make those corrections. You can also save and submit or just save. The difference is the save and submit button, this will automatically send all the information that you just entered in to the interface, and it'll churn out all those different types of cancer risk assessments that we first spoke about. So the save button just basically says, I'm going to save the information that I entered in and submit it at a later time. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the save and submit button just so we can see what that information looks like when it goes through the interface, makes all the calculations, and then comes back into MetaInformatics. So it does say finish, close the window. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. What's great about the CRA or the cancer risk assessment that it is pretty quick. It takes just a few seconds. What it is doing is, like I said, making those calculations on the different risk assessment models. So it would look for all the information, looking for the Gail risk assessment, the BRCA Pro, and the different Tyrer-Cuzick versions. What it does is, once it does make those calculations, it does save a copy in the document repository into the patient's chart. We do send this information automatically to the chart, so this lives always in the document repository. It always will save a copy for you. We have different options to send it to the radiologist if they would like to look at the information or the results while they're dictating the report or looking at the images, so we can do that as well. We can also send it to a patient directly if you would like them to know their different types of risk assessments and what the calculations were for them. We can send it to a patient portal type situation, or we can have it printed if you'd like to mail it to them. It's just very many different types of ways we can get this information to different types of people, to the radiologists, the patients, any referring physicians, just different things like that. We have different ways to send them all that information. All right, so like I said, it is saved in the document repository. So I'm going to go ahead and click into this. So there is the questionnaire that we filled out. This is all the information that we filled out on the patient and also the family members. So that also lives in the document repository, it just saved as a copy. The breast cancer risk assessment, this is the actual risk assessment that came back. This is all the calculations that they did based on the information that you entered in on the patient and the family members alone. So we'll have patient information again up at the top, and then we break it down by the different types of risk assessment. So you'll see the Gail risk assessment model, the Tyrer-Cuzick 7 and 8, and then down below we have the BRCA Pro risk assessment. The Tyrer-Cuzick version 8 does look at density as a factor as well, so you'll see the different breakdowns versus what type of density the patient may have. But it just gives you an overall summary, like I said, of the different types of risk models, It does break it down individually. You do have the option within this CRA model to only see certain ones. If you only want to see the Tyrer-Cuzick 7 and not the 8, we can remove this information as well. So it is a little customizable that way. And likewise, if you'd like to see only the BRCA Pro or only the Gail model or just 2 out of the 4, we can kind of modify this and customize it as you'd like to see it. And like I said earlier, we can send this to the radiologist, the referring physicians. We can send it to the patient themselves if they'd like to see their different 5-year risks, lifetime risks, and different things like that. So this is the summary page that will automatically save in the document repository. And this is basically the information that you entered in on the patient and their family members, calculated in their different risk assessments. So this is what it would look like on the finished end. And once you do send this information out and the risk assessments are calculated, we have the ability to keep adding onto this. So if this patient comes back year after year and something changes, you could go ahead and just click on the edit button and just edit the existing information. So you don't have to fill out a brand new assessment each time for this existing patient. So we do have the option just to edit previously entered in entries and not have to go through the entire list all over again. So that was the basic demo of our cancer risk assessment. Like I said, this is built into the breast tracking module within Meninformatics. It's fully integrated. This isn't a third party that you would have to buy outright. This would just come with it. So this is a great model and tool to use to give the patients their information on the risk assessment and help any radiologists or referring physicians help the patients along with their journey throughout the breast tracking module. This is a great tool to use. Thank you for taking the time to watch this demo. Be sure to reach out to our support staff if you have any questions pertaining to the material covered within this video or to request any additional demos. We can be reached by phone at area code 614-457-4359 or by email at support@einformatics.com.